Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm the History Fella, and today we're talking about a concept that is as terrifying as it is fascinating. In most of human history, war is a bit like a professional sports match. If the sports match involved sharp objects and a lot more mud. It was usually fought by small groups of professionals or mercenaries on a specific field. You had your kings, your knights, your generals. They'd have a scrap, someone would surrender, a province would change hands, and the peasants back home would mostly just keep farming, hoping the new tax collector wasn't coming around soon. But then everything changed. Enter total war. This isn't just war, but bigger. It is a fundamental shift in how humanity tries to destroy itself. It's the moment when the line between the soldier in the trench and the grandmother knitting socks at home completely evaporates. So what is it exactly? At its core, total war is a conflict in which the belligerent engages in the complete mobilization of all available resources and population to win. In a total war, there is no civilian economy, only a war economy. There are no non-combatants, only people who haven't been bombed yet. Today we're going to look back at how we got here, the three pillars that hold total war up, and why the 20th century became the bloodiest era in human history because of it. To understand total war, you have to look at three specific things: mobilization, target selection, and ideology. Number 1, total mobilization. In a limited war, the government uses its standing army. In a total war, the government takes over everything. The factory that used to make sewing machines, it makes machine guns now. Your local bakery, it's rationing flour so the boys at the front can have biscuits. Even the kids are out collecting scrap metal. This is the home front, a term that didn't really exist in the way we think of it until the 19th century. The elimination of the civilian/military divide. This is the darkest part. In total war, if a civilian is working in a factory making bullets, that factory becomes a legitimate military target. By extension, the worker becomes a target. This logic leads directly to the firebombing of cities and eventually the atomic bomb. If the whole society is the engine of the war, the enemy decides that the best way to win is to break the engine. Ideology. Limited wars are often about territory or trade. Total wars are about existence. It's us or them. This usually requires a massive propaganda machine to dehumanize the enemy, making the public believe that losing doesn't just mean a change in government, it means the end of the way of life. Total war didn't just appear out of thin air in 1914, it was a slow, agonizing evolution. The first proto-total war was arguably the Napoleonic Wars. Before this, armies were small and expensive, but revolutionary France introduced the levée en masse, the mass conscription of all able-bodied men. Suddenly, France had hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Napoleon wasn't just trying to win a border dispute, he was trying to reshape the entire continent. But the real trial run for total war happened across the pond, during the American Civil War. Early in the Civil War, both sides tried to be gentlemanly. By 1864, that was gone. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman realized that to defeat the Confederacy, he had to destroy their will and ability to fight. His march to the sea wasn't just about fighting Confederate soldiers, it was about burning crops, destroying railroads, and wrecking the Southern economy. He famously said, "War is cruelty, and you cannot refine it." Sherman understood that the civilian population was the backbone of the military. If you break the backbone, the soldier falls over. It was brutal, it was effective, and it was a terrifying preview of the 20th century. If the Civil War was the trial run, World War I was the grand opening. This is where industrialization met warfare, and the results were horrific. In World War I, we see the entire state being reorganised. Governments took control of the railways, the food supply, and the media. This is where we see the shell crisis, the realisation that this war wasn't going to be won by bravery, but by whoever could produce the most artillery shells. Britain, Germany and France turned their entire nations into giant munitions factories. But it was World War II that represents the apex of the total war. In World War II, the distinction between the front line and the back and back home disappeared almost entirely. Think about the strategic bombing campaigns, the Blitz in London, the firebombing of Dresden, the destruction of Tokyo. These weren't accidents, they were the logical conclusion of total war. If the civilian population is part of the war effort, then the city itself is a battlefield. At the height of World War II, the Soviet Union was moving entire factories thousands of miles to the Ural Mountains to keep production going while their cities were being decimated. In the United States, 10% of the entire population was in uniform, while the other 90% was fueled by victory gardens and war bonds. This was the ultimate expression of the total war philosophy. Every scrap of rubber, every ounce of fat, every single human life was a resource to be spent in the pursuit of victory. Here is the weird part. After 1945, total war kind of stopped, at least between the big powers. Why? Well, because we got too good at it. The invention of the nuclear weapon took the logic of total war to its breaking point. If total war means using every resource to destroy the enemy, and that resource is a hydrogen bomb, then victory becomes meaningless, because everyone is dead. This is what we call mutually assured destruction, or MAD. Since 1945, we've moved back towards limited wars. Conflicts like Korea, Vietnam, or the Gulf War, where the fighting is contained to a specific region and the entire global population isn't being conscripted. However, don't let that give you a false sense of security. Today we talk about hybrid warfare, or cyber warfare. In many ways, these are just digital versions of total war. When a hacker shuts down a power grid or a hospital in another country, they are targeting civilians to break a nation's will. The total part hasn't gone away, it's just changed its tools. Total war is a sobering reminder of what happens when human ingenuity is directed entirely towards destruction. It turned the 20th century into a landscape of scorched earth and shattered cities. It taught us that the civilized world is only a few policy changes away from turning every citizen into a combatant. It's easy to look at the maps and statistics of total war and get lost in the grandeur of the scale. But remember, total war is at its heart about the loss of the individual. It's the moment when a person stops being a human and starts being a unit of production or a target. So the next time you see a statue of a great general or a sleek fighter jet at an air show, remember the lessons of Sherman, the trenches of the Somme and the ruins of Stalingrad. Remember what happens when the gloves come off. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe for more historical deep dives, and let me know in the comments, do you think we'll ever see another true total war, or has the nuclear age ended that chapter for good? I've been the History Fella, and I'll see you in the next video.